Okay, another one of the major reforms that I mentioned earlier was expanding and stabilizing the northern provinces. Okay, now when I say northern provinces, I'm talking about the areas of modern-day Texas, New Mexico, California, several other modern states that you see involved in that territory as well, and the northern states of modern Mexico. These are the northern territories or the interior provinces, the Provincias Internas. Okay, and so this is a major change that takes place. Jose de Galvez is going to be the one to institute this change. This area is going to be governed separately from New Spain after Galvez arrives and takes over New Spain during his inspection. One of his major changes is the creation of the Provincias Internas, the interior provinces, which are going to be governed separately from New Spain. Okay, because before the viceroy had control, ultimate authority over these northern provinces, but now they're going to be separated and they're going to be administered separately so that they could be ran more efficiently. Okay, so Jose de Galvez, the inspector, he's the one who makes this change in government. And so he's going to create a new position called the Commandant General. This is a military position. And the Commandant General, he is going to be in charge of both the military in the northern provinces as well as the government. Right? So he's going to have the highest political authority as well in the northern provinces. So this is a very important position that is created by Jose de Galvez, right? Okay, so why is Jose de Galvez making this change? What are his goals, right? What is he hoping to get out of creating this separate administration of the interior provinces? Well, there's two main goals. One is to create a greater military strength in the area, and the second goal is to control the Indian tribes who are doing a lot of raiding on the colonies there in those areas. Okay? So let's talk about the reason for creating a greater military strength. Well, Spain is in competition with other European powers, okay? There are other empires in Europe that want to dominate the Americas, right? But Spain claims a lot of the territory in the Americas, right? Huge chunks of territory. But you have these other empires such as Britain, France, and Russia who are starting to create their own colonies in the Americas, in North America in particular. So the Russians are going to start creating colonies in Alaska as well as in California. And so this is going to alarm Spain, right? This is a problem. This is a foreign threat. You have these other empires that are trying to create colonies in areas that were claimed by the Spanish Empire. So to neutralize these foreign threats, to stop the spread of colonies from foreign empires in the Spanish territories, you're going to have to populate those territories with people. You need more Spanish colonists populating those areas so that foreign empires can't set up their own colonies in those areas. So Jose de Galvez, his plan is to try to expand colonization in the north so those areas will have more people so that foreign empires can't come and invade those areas and start their own colonies there. Okay? And so what if you get into a military battle with these foreign powers? Well, you're going to have to increase your military strength there in those northern provinces. And so that's why you see the creation of a military administration there in the interior provinces. Okay? The second problem with this area was there was a number of tribes who were conducting raids on the Spanish colonies that already existed in the northern provinces. Right? We talked a little bit about New Mexico, where there are tribes like the Comanches, the Apaches, Navajo, who were raiding the Spanish colonies. This was also occurring in Texas. Okay? And so you are going to have to, one, increase your military strength, but you're also going to have to find a way to find peace between the Spanish and these Indian tribes. And so ultimately, you'd have a number of gift-giving alliances being created between the Spanish and various tribes. So the Spanish would offer gifts. We talked about this with the Comanche, right? Offering gifts like horses, guns even, right? And other material goods in order for these tribes to stop raiding the Spanish colonies, right? There was a lot of raiding going on. It was a serious issue, okay? And it was actually halting the expansion of Spanish colonialism. right? You don't have a lot of people wanting to go and move to those areas and settle those areas because there's a threat that they may be killed in an Indian raid. Okay, so you have to find a way to control those Indians, and so the way they did that was to give them gifts, to pay them off because they were powerful and strong because they had European weapons and horses. A lot of those horses came from the raids on the Spanish colonies. Okay, and so they were a force to be reckoned with. And eventually, though, you would see some success there on that particular goal. So you would have the Commandant General seeing some success there, creating alliances with some native tribes and slowing down the raiding. Okay, and so that was a success. And so, with the control of the tribes and strengthening the military force of the Spanish there in the north, you will see, because of this, a slight increase in settlement. But in general, you'll never really see a large population there in the northern provinces. The population is going to remain rather sparse, right, in areas like New Mexico and Texas. And another aspect of this, Jose de Galvez, he wanted to expand colonization into Alta California. And so he is also going to push for that as well. You're going to see eventually the creation of the mission system, which we'll talk about later, there in California. And this is part of that expansion, trying to populate California so that the Russians don't come and take over that territory. Okay, so you see some success there, but ultimately it's not a huge success because the populations don't increase dramatically. Another aspect of the Bourbon reforms is going to be the creation of new administrative positions. We talked about the Commandant General. That was one of them. You're also going to see the creation of the position known as Intendents, right? The Intendents. These are going to be governors in a sense. They're like governors of large districts. Remember we talked about the corregidores, we talked about the alcaldes mayores. These were local political leaders. Those positions are going to be replaced by the intendants. Okay, the intendants are going to have larger districts than the earlier officials, and they're going to be in charge of a number of different duties within these large districts that they're going to take over. Okay, so what are the duties of the intendants? Well, ultimately, they are to increase the profits for the Spanish crown. That's their main job, right? And maintain order in their area. Okay, so more specifically, they are in charge of royal monopolies inside of their intendancies, right? That's the name of their districts that they're in charge of. So they have to control those royal monopolies, make sure that the crown is receiving their profits on those monopolies. Their job, these intendants, these governors, their job is also to collect taxes. There is a more efficient tax system that is created during the Bourbon reforms, and so you're going to see the intendants, their job is to collect those taxes, make sure they get back to the mother country. They also have to maintain and improve royal roads. Why are the roads important? Because when you're trading, you have trade goods traveling in the area. Those trade goods have to have roads that are intact so that they can move those goods, right? It's related to the economy. So you have to improve the royal roads ultimately so that you can increase profit for the crown. And also the intendants have to reduce smuggling, right? You don't want foreign powers bringing in goods illegally, smuggling goods in and selling them. No, you want those goods to be sold within the legal economy, right? And so those goods will be taxed, and those taxes go back to the Spanish crown so they can make a profit. Right? So that's the overall goal here of the intendants. Their duties are ultimately to increase the profits for the Spanish crown, and these are the ways that they do it. Okay? They also have to maintain law and order in their district, right? In their intendancy. And so the intendants have to make sure that there is justice in their area, in their district. They have to maintain public facilities, right, for the people in their district, and they have to defend their district as well. Okay, so these are major roles that the intendants play. And who are these intendants? Well, remember earlier, the alcaldes mayores, the corregidores, they were usually local people, right? They were Creoles, people, usually Spaniards that were born in the Americas. But when they lose their position, when they lose their government jobs to these intendants, usually the intendants are not going to be Creoles, they're going to be Peninsulares, okay? Individuals who were born back in Spain and Europe, all right? And so these peninsulares are now going to get these high positions. These are pretty high positions in the royal government. The position of the intendant, right? They have a lot of authority and power in their area, and they have large districts. These are not small little local districts. The districts of the corregidores were much smaller. Okay, so now the intendants, they have control over much larger areas, they have more power, and their duties are basically to get those profits from New Spain and make sure they get back to the mother country, right? And so who's going to do this? The Peninsulares, because they're seen as being more loyal to the mother country. So that's why you have individuals like Jose de Galvez who are hiring the intendants, choosing Peninsulares because they're more loyal. They're more likely to collect those taxes, right? So that the Spanish crown could profit. Now, since these districts of the intendants were so large, the intendant's only one man, you know, how's he going to really govern this huge area? He has to have underlings or lower officials do that for him in smaller districts. And these are going to be known as subdelegados, right? And the subdelegados, basically, they're kind of similar to the same earlier positions as the corregidores and the alcaldes mayores, okay? And similar to those people who are in those positions, you're going to see a lot of corruption. Okay, why? Because unlike the intendants, the subdelegados are not given a large salary from the royal government. All right, they receive low pay. So in order to try to profit from their position, the subdelegados are going to be corrupt and they're going to abuse local people, in particular indigenous people, Native Americans, and their villages and communities, right? In similar ways that you've seen taking place with the earlier corregidores.